his mouth working like he was trying to call for help, but no sound came. He slumped sideways, feet scrambling but finding no balance. People were nearby. They looked, but no one moved. A dozen things flashed through Jasmine's mind. Her empty fridge, rent overdue, the child care center wait list, the 2 crumpled bills in her pocket. And then, just as quickly, those thoughts vanished. Because the man was now flat on the sidewalk, convulsing. She didn't think. She handed her baby to the first woman close enough to catch her and ran. "Somebody call 911. Jasmine yelled, dropping to her knees beside the man. His skin was ashen, his lips tinged blue. His hand clawed at his chest like he could dig the pain out. She remembered this. Heart attack symptoms. Her mother had died just like this. Same gasping. Same silence from everyone around. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, voice trembling but focused. She pressed 2 fingers to his neck. Weak pulse. Shallow breaths. Jasmine glanced around. No one moved. A few had pulled out their phones, but only to record. No sirens in the distance. No one stepping forward. "Please, somebody help me," she shouted. Nothing. She turned back to the man, then to her baby girl in the stranger's arms across the street. The child hadn't woken. Still safe. Still trusting. And that's when she saw it. The small bottle poking out of the man's leather vest. Nitroglycerin. Her fingers moved on instinct. She retrieved the bottle, placed 1 tablet under his tongue, and tilted his head gently. His breathing hitched. Shuddered. But then, it stopped. "No, no, no," she whispered. "Don't you dare." She started compressions. 1, 2, 3. Pressing into his chest with the weight of everything she carried. Loneliness, hunger, exhaustion, hope. Then her eyes landed on a sign across the street. Defibrillator inside, Quick Mart, the little store she just left. She froze. It required a code. A deposit to use it. $2. She looked at the bills in her pocket, sweat beating down her temple. Her last $2. It was either her daughter's dinner tonight, or a stranger's chance to live. Jasmine sprinted across the street like the pavement was burning beneath her feet, yelling to the cashier through the glass before she even hit the door. "He's having a heart attack. I need the AED." The team behind the counter blinked at her, slow like he was buffering. "You mean the box on the wall?" "Yes," she shouted. "It says it needs a deposit. I have the $2, just let me. You gotta scan it. There's a QR code." He pointed lazily with a ring-laden hand. "Cash doesn't work. Card only." Jasmine's stomach dropped. "I don't have a card," she said, the words thick in her throat. "He's dying. Out there. Right now." The cashier shrugged. "I don't know what to tell you. That's how it's set up." She looked at the sleek silver case, locked and glowing blue behind the plexiglass. Life-saving technology, and it may as well have been on the moon. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the crumpled bills, and slammed them on the counter. "Just open it. Please. I'm begging you." The cashier looked at the money, then at her, then back at the screen of his phone. "Look, lady," he muttered. "I could get in trouble." She didn't wait. Jasmine grabbed the AED box with both hands, yanked it forward, and the alarm shrieked through the store like a war siren. She didn't care. Because behind her, across the street, a stranger was dying, and the world was still watching. She bolted back out the door, machine in hand, the $2 forgotten on the counter. The alarm kept wailing behind her as Jasmine tore across the street, feet pounding the pavement. The defibrillator case clutched to her chest like it held her own heartbeat. A few bystanders finally stirred, drawn by the siren, or maybe by guilt. Someone shouted, "Is he okay?" but didn't come closer. She dropped to her knees beside the man. His face was slack, his chest still, the biker jacket now stained with sweat and city dust. She opened the AED with shaking hands. The robotic voice inside began its monotone. "Apply pads to bare chest." "God, please," she whispered, tearing open his shirt, revealing a pale, sunken chest, tattoos and old scars stretched across it like forgotten maps. "Analyzing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient." She backed off, hands hovering, praying. The machine clicked. Shock advised. Charging. Jasmine's throat tightened. Press flashing button to deliver shock. Her thumb hovered over the red button, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then she pressed it. The man's body jerked violently. His limbs twitched. His breath didn't return. Jasmine leaned in again, resumed compressions, sweat dripping off her brow, counting under her breath, praying between numbers. Then, just as suddenly as it had all started, he gasped. A sound. A wet, ragged, life sound. His eyes fluttered, then focused, and Jasmine burst into tears. Not from fear, not from relief, but because for the first time in a very, very long time, something had gone right. Don't move, Jasmine said softly, voice breaking. You're okay. Just stay still. The man blinked slowly. His lips parted. You? He rasped, then winced from the pain in his chest. Yeah, I'm here, she whispered, placing a trembling hand on his shoulder. Just hang on. Help's coming. And for once it was. A siren finally pierced the distance, growing louder, rushing toward them with purpose. People began stepping closer now. Curious, hesitant. Some began filming. Jasmine ignored them. The paramedics arrived in a flurry of movement and voices. They worked quickly, like a dance they'd done too many times. One took over compressions. Another checked the AED and gave her a quiet, impressed nod. Ma'am, you saved his life, one of them said, handing her a bottle of water. If you hadn't acted when you did. She nodded, numb. The adrenaline was crashing now. Her legs buckled, and she sat back on the curb. Her daughter, God, her daughter. She looked across the street. The woman was still there, holding the baby gently, rocking her. When their eyes met, she smiled and began walking over. Your little girl's okay, she said softly, handing her over. Didn't even wake up. Jasmine took her daughter into her arms and clutched her tight. The baby stirred, then sighed back into sleep. Behind her, the biker was being loaded into the ambulance, tubes and machines keeping him tethered to the world. As they closed the doors, the paramedic turned to her. What's your name? Jasmine, she said quietly. Well, Jasmine, he paused. You did something a lot of people wouldn't. You chose someone else over yourself. She gave a tired smile. It didn't feel like a choice. And somehow, that made the moment feel even more sacred. The crowd thinned. The sirens faded. The woman who'd held her daughter gave Jasmine one last smile and disappeared into the blur of city life. And Jasmine sat there, on that cracked curb, with her child asleep in her arms and a pit in her stomach. She had nothing left. No groceries. No money. She had broken a store's security system. The cops might still come. And yet, she had saved a life. But that knowledge couldn't pay rent. Couldn't buy diapers. Couldn't stop the eviction notice waiting on her kitchen table back home. The baby stirred. Jasmine looked down at her and whispered, I know, sweetie. I'm hungry too. The sun dipped lower in the sky, throwing long shadows across the sidewalk. Jasmine stood, slowly, legs stiff, arms heavy with her daughter's weight. She crossed the street to the store. The door was locked. Inside, the cashier stood with his phone to his ear. He wouldn't look at her. She knocked once, just enough to get his attention. He looked, paused, then turned his back. Jasmine closed her eyes. No thank you. No sorry. No refund. No acknowledgement at all. She wasn't surprised. Just tired. She turned away, pulled her baby close, and started walking, toward the bus stop, toward nothing. But as she stepped off the curb, a low rumble filled the street. At first, she thought it was thunder. Then she saw them. Motorcycles. Dozens. Roaring up the road like a storm with chrome bones and black leather skin. The engines growled as they closed in. First 5 bikes, then 10, then what felt like 30. They surrounded the corner store like it was a fortress under siege, parking in tight rows, kickstands hitting pavement in a metallic symphony. People stopped, watched, filmed. Jasmine froze on the sidewalk, clutching her daughter to her chest. The bikers climbed off one by one. Men and women, tall, weathered, some tattooed, others clean-cut, all dressed in worn leather patched with the same insignia. Brothers of Mercy MC. One man stepped forward. Tall, broad, silver in his beard, a long scar across his cheek like a lightning bolt. She recognized him instantly. The man she had saved. He moved slower now, his steps deliberate, supported by another biker at his side. But his eyes, those piercing steel blue eyes, locked onto her like they were drawn by gravity. Jasmine didn't speak. She wasn't sure she could. He stopped in front of her, reached into his jacket pocket, and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Slowly, he held it out. Her hand trembled as she took it. Inside was a check. $10,000. She blinked, looked at him. What is this? His voice was rough, rasping from the trauma still healing in his chest. A thank you, he said, and a beginning. Jasmine shook her head. I didn't do it for money. He nodded. I know. That's why you deserve it. Then he turned to the crowd behind him and said, Tell her. One by one, the bikers stepped forward, and the woman who thought she was alone wasn't anymore. She saved my brother, said the first biker, a woman with braids down to her waist and oil stains on her jeans. He's all I got left in this world. You didn't hesitate. That means something. Ma'am, said a man with a deep southern drawl and eyes that didn't blink. Most folks walk past. You didn't. You gave a damn when no one else did. Another stepped forward, younger, nervous, holding something behind his back. My dad. He gestured toward the man she had saved. That's him. You gave him back to me. Then he handed Jasmine a small brown teddy bear. New, with a blue ribbon. For your little girl, he said shyly. It's not much. Jasmine's hand flew to her mouth. Her vision blurred. I don't understand, she murmured. The first man, the one she'd saved, nodded toward a different biker in the back, who stepped forward with something in his hand. A set of keys. We own a garage off 9th and Maple, the man said. Got a little apartment above it. It's been empty since my aunt passed. Needs love, but it's yours if you want it. Rent-free for 6 months. Jasmine's knees buckled. Another biker caught her gently. A murmur rippled through the group, soft but powerful. Your family now. The sun had dipped behind the buildings, casting golden light on a sidewalk that just an hour ago had felt like the edge of despair. Now, it felt like the start of something holy. Jasmine didn't speak for a long time. She just held her baby, the check in one hand, the teddy bear in the other, the keys now resting in her palm like they weighed more than gold. The child stirred and cooed softly, blinking up at the faces around her, faces filled with fire and warmth. Finally, Jasmine looked up at the man she had saved. I don't know how to thank you, she whispered. He gave a small, crooked smile. You already did. Someone in the group cleared their throat. We're not here just to drop off gifts and vanish. We meant what we said. Family's not just blood. It's who shows up when it counts. Another stepped forward, pulling out a manila folder. Listen, I know a guy who runs the HR department over at Midtown Logistics. They're hiring for intake coordinators and scheduling. You'd be good at it. Pays steady. Benefits, too. I already gave him your name. Jasmine's breath caught. I don't even have a resume. We'll help you make one, someone else chimed in. You gave someone a second chance at life. It's time someone gave one to you. She covered her mouth with her hand, shaking her head slowly, because the wave of it all was too much, too fast, too good. And yet, she could feel it in her bones. This was real, and unfolding like the answer to every whispered prayer she thought no one had heard. The motorcycles lined the block like a shield, chrome glinting under the streetlights as the city softened into twilight. Jasmine stood at the center of it all, still barefoot from earlier, still stunned. One of the bikers, a woman with a scar down her jaw and kind eyes, stepped forward and gently wrapped a flannel jacket around Jasmine's shoulders. You're not invisible anymore, she said. That was the moment Jasmine broke. She collapsed into the woman's arms, sobbing, not because she was weak, but because she had held on for so long without release. The pain, the hunger, the loneliness, the bone-deep exhaustion of holding a child with one hand and the world with the other. And now here she was, held, supported, seen. The baby, sensing her mother's shift, whimpered but didn't cry. A biker with soft hands and a teddy bear tattoo took the child without a word and rocked her gently, like he'd done it 1,000 times before. "You okay?" someone asked. Jasmine nodded, wiping her face. "I think I will be." Someone handed her a water bottle, another a protein bar. Small things, but no one had ever offered them before without expecting something in return. It wasn't just kindness. It was community. And for the first time in years, Jasmine didn't feel like she was surviving alone. She was surrounded by people who had every reason to walk past her, and instead had chosen to stand beside her. That night, Jasmine slept in the apartment above the garage, a small space with peeling wallpaper and a leaky faucet, but it was warm. Safe. Hers. The baby slept beside her on a mattress someone had carried up the stairs. The biker with the scar had brought groceries. Another had fixed the broken lock on the door. There was no rent. No questions. Just, "Let us know if you need anything." And for once, she didn't have to answer with shame. She stood by the window in the middle of the night, staring down at the garage below. One of the bikers, she didn't know his name yet, was asleep in a folding chair, just watching the parking lot. Just in case. She cried again. But these tears were different. Not from fear or hunger. They came from a deep place that had forgotten what safety felt like. By morning, she had made a decision. She wasn't going to hide anymore. Wasn't going to apologize for struggling or for needing help. And she damn sure wasn't going to raise her daughter to believe the world would never show up for her. Because now she knew, sometimes, help looked like thunder. Sometimes, it came on 2 wheels, wrapped in leather and kindness. And sometimes, it arrived just when you were about to give up. 3 days later, Jasmine walked into Midtown Logistics wearing the only nice blouse she owned, freshly laundered by one of the bikers' wives who dropped by with detergent, muffins, and a hug that didn't ask for anything in return. She carried a simple resume, crafted over coffee with the group's unofficial tech guy, who used to run IT before motorcycles became his church. "Don't sell yourself short," he'd said. "You managed a household on nothing, handled medical emergencies, kept a child fed. That's operations experience if I've ever seen it." The office lobby was sleek, the kind of place where she used to assume she didn't belong. But when the HR manager called her name, he stood with a smile. "Jasmine, thanks for coming in. I've heard a lot about you." She blinked. "You have?" He nodded. "One of our senior vendors, the biker who gave me your name. Well, let's just say when he vouches for someone, we listen." The interview felt like a conversation. They asked about her ability to handle stress. She smiled and said, "Sir, I once kept a toddler calm during a blackout with nothing but a flashlight and peanut butter crackers." They asked about her reliability. "I don't have the luxury of not showing up," she said plainly. When it ended, the manager stood and said, "We'll be in touch very soon. But between you and me, I think you're exactly who we need." For the first time in years, Jasmine walked out of a building feeling like her future wasn't a cliff, but a door. And maybe, just maybe, it was finally open. The next morning, Jasmine was washing dishes in the tiny kitchen upstairs, humming to herself, baby on her hip, when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at it, heart thumping. These days, unknown numbers meant 2 things, bad news or miracles. She answered. "Hello. Miss Carter," came the voice, calm, professional. "Yes, this is Jasmine. This is Mark Dillard from Midtown Logistics. I just wanted to let you know we'd like to offer you the position. Full-time, starting next Monday." She nearly dropped the phone. "Wait, really?" she said, barely breathing. "We were very impressed. And your story, well, let's just say people are still talking about it." She swallowed hard, hand on her chest. I don't know what to say. You already said enough during the interview. Welcome aboard, Jasmine." When the call ended, she stood in the middle of the room, phone in one hand, sponge in the other, and just cried. Happy, disbelieving tears. Her baby giggled, grabbing at her face like she could feel it too. Outside, the morning light poured through the curtain. Soft, warm, real. She looked around the apartment, the peeling paint, the thrifted crib, the fridge humming quietly. It wasn't luxury, but it was hers. And it was the first time in years she wasn't waking up terrified. A job, a home, a future, not handed to her, but earned by leading with kindness. The next weekend, the biker crew invited her and the baby to a cookout behind the garage. It was loud, smoky, full of laughter, ribs, and engine grease. Kids chased each other between motorcycles. Someone set up a folding table covered in mismatched dishes, mac and cheese, grilled corn, and peach cobbler that made Jasmine swear it healed something deep in her soul. She watched from a lawn chair, her daughter asleep in her arms, the sunset turning the sky gold. The man she had saved, Mac, walked over with 2 lemonades and handed her one. "You settling in okay?" he asked, easing down beside her. She nodded. "More than okay. It's the first time I've had people ask me how I'm doing without expecting me to prove I deserve help." He looked out over the gathering, then back at her. "That's the thing about most people," he said. "They think kindness has to be earned. But you prove the opposite." She glanced at him, brow furrowed. "You had $2 to your name," Max said. "Could have walked away, but you didn't. And now?" He gestured toward the crowd. "You lit a fire in this whole crew. We used to ride for ourselves. Now we ride for people who need reminding that they matter." She smiled softly. "I didn't mean to start a movement." "You didn't mean to," he said. "But you did." A few weeks later, Jasmine stood at the front of a local community center, nervously gripping a piece of paper. She'd been invited to speak, to share her story during a panel on compassion in crisis. The room was filled with people from all walks of life, single parents, outreach workers, teens who thought no one saw them. She looked out at their faces, cleared her throat, and began. "I used to believe the world didn't care about people like me. I was wrong. It's not that people don't care, it's that too many are waiting for someone else to go first." She told them about that day, about the heart attack, the $2, the decision. "I didn't know if he'd live. I didn't know what would happen to me or my daughter after that moment. But I knew this. If we stop choosing each other in the small moments, we lose everything." Somewhere in the back, Mac nodded. "The kindness that changed my life didn't come from the people with the most money. It came from people with the most heart. People who've been broken too, and chose to be better, not bitter." The applause was quiet at first. Then it swelled. Afterward, a young girl approached her and said, "I've been thinking about giving up. But maybe I won't." And Jasmine knew then. The ripple had begun. Not just in her life or her child's, but in every person who heard and chose to believe again. It's been a year. Jasmine now walks to work each morning with her daughter in tow, hand in hand, backpacks bouncing, laughter trailing behind them like music. She works a job she loves, lives in a home filled with warmth, and every Friday night, she still visits the garage, where the smell of motor oil and barbecue is now the smell of family. The bikers never left. They didn't just help her up, they stayed. They taught her how to change a tire, brought toys for her daughter's birthday, cheered when she passed her promotion exam. Max still grumbles about kale and the cookout salad, but he always eats it anyway. One afternoon, Jasmine passed the corner store where it all began. The same sidewalk, the same sunlit stretch of concrete. She stopped for a moment, placed her hand on her daughter's head, and whispered, "Right here is where everything changed." The little girl looked up, curious. "Because of a motorcycle?" "No," Jasmine said softly. "Because of a decision. And here's the thing, that's all it takes. Not money, not fame. Just one moment of compassion in the face of fear. One refusal to walk away. One act of love that no one sees coming. Because sometimes the world doesn't need heroes and capes. It just needs someone with $2, a heartbeat, and the courage to care anyway. So let this story stay with you. Next time you wonder if kindness matters, remember Jasmine. Remember Mac. Remember what happens when we stop judging and start showing up. We don't save the world all at once. We save it one choice at a time. Thank you for watching. Subscribe me and hit the notification bell to not miss new stories. Bye.